On a bustling morning at New York's JFK Airport, the usual cacophony of announcements and hurried footsteps filled the air. Among the crowd was a flight bound for Atlanta, its passengers unaware that their journey would unveil a dramatic confrontation, altering the course of two lives forever. Seated in the boarding area, Emily Carter, a 30-year-old white woman with sharply styled hair and a piercing gaze, scrolled through her phone. Her lips pursed in disapproval as she read the latest news, her silent mutterings reflecting her discontent with the world's current state. Known in her conservative small-town community for her vocal opinions on race and politics, Emily carried herself with a demeanor that brooked no disagreement. A few seats away, Michael Thompson, a 35-year-old black soldier, sat calmly, observing a group of children playing nearby. Dressed in his military uniform, his presence exuded a quiet strength. Returning home from a long deployment, he was merely hours away from the comfort of familiar surroundings. Unbeknownst to him, this flight would not just lead him home, but would also catapult him toward a past obscured by years of separation. As the final boarding call reverberated through the terminal, Emily and Michael made their way to the gate. Their steps on the jet bridge unknowingly diminished the physical and emotional distance between them, drawing them closer to a shared heritage long hidden in the shadows of their divergent lives. As they found their seats within the aircraft's close quarters, the stage was set for a clash of worlds. Emily, with her rigid views shaped by her upbringing, and Michael, a man whose life was a testament to service and unity, were about to have their realities challenged in the most unexpected ways. What was meant to be a routine flight was poised to become a critical intersection in their lives, revealing truths that would shake the foundations of their beliefs and identities. The cabin doors closed, sealing them within the fuselage that would soon become a crucible for change. As the engines roared to life, so too did the simmering tensions that would soon boil over, forever altering the landscape of their understanding and relationships. As the aircraft reached cruising altitude, a hush fell over the cabin, punctuated occasionally by the soft rustling of magazines and the faint hum of conversation. The flight attendants moved gracefully through the aisle, ensuring passenger comfort as the plane sliced through the clouds, a thin veil between the heavens and earth. Michael Thompson sat by the window, his gaze occasionally drifting from the passing landscape below to his book, his mind partially on the words and partially on the excitement of returning home. Despite his serene exterior, an undercurrent of anticipation ran through him, a soldier's heart always beating a tad faster as the familiar terrain came into view. In the adjacent aisle seat, Emily Carter fidgeted with her phone, her expression a mixture of boredom and irritation. Her discomfort grew not from the flight, but from the proximity to Michael, whose mere presence seemed to challenge the invisible boundaries she had long upheld. Her eyes, icy and calculating, occasionally swept over Michael with a thinly veiled disdain. As drinks were served and the slight turbulence began, Emily's discontent became vocal. "I can't believe they allow just about anyone in uniform to board early and sit anywhere," she muttered loud enough for Michael to hear, her voice laced with a sharpness intended to wound. Michael's hand paused around his cup of coffee. He turned slightly, meeting her gaze with a calm that belied his rising unease. "The uniform stands for service, which knows no bounds of race or privilege," he responded, his voice steady yet friendly, hoping to disarm the tension with diplomacy. However, Emily was not looking for reconciliation. Service? More like a free pass in today's world, she scoffed, turning her attention deliberately away, her posture stiffening. The tension could have escalated further if not for the intervention of a flight attendant who noticed the brewing storm. "Is everything all right here?" she asked, eyeing both passengers with a trained neutrality. Before Michael could smooth over the situation, Emily's temper flared. "It's fine, as long as some people remember their place," she snapped, her voice carrying a venom that made a few nearby heads turn. Michael's jaw tightened. The military had taught him to face external enemies with courage, but the enemy within prejudice and ignorance was a far tougher opponent. He chose silence, not out of defeat but in the hope of maintaining peace. The flight attendant lingered a moment longer, her eyes sympathetic towards Michael, before moving on. The incident seemed to close, but the words hung heavily in the air, a palpable reminder of the invisible yet stark divides that govern personal ideologies and interactions. As the flight continued, whispers and murmurs spread among the passengers, a mixture of curiosity and concern bubbling beneath the surface. The air in the cabin grew thick, not just with altitude pressure but with the weight of unspoken judgments and the echo of Emily's words. Unknown to both Emily and Michael, a fellow passenger, an amateur genealogist with a keen interest in human stories, had overheard the exchange. Something about the scenario piqued his interest, not just the conflict, but the underlying currents that seemed oddly familiar, reminiscent of a family lore he had once researched. As the plane began its descent, the threads of fate were slowly pulling together the tapestry of a hidden truth, one that would unravel in the most unexpected of reunions. The amateur genealogist, his curiosity now fully piqued, decided to delve a little deeper, unaware that he was about to uncover a link that would shock them all: the true relationship between Michael and Emily, entwined by blood yet separated by a chasm of lived experiences and lost history. Harold Jenkins, a retired school teacher with a passion for genealogy, leaned forward in his seat, his eyes reflecting a mix of curiosity and concern. After a brief introduction, he gently probed Michael about his background, under the guise of discussing military history. As Michael shared snippets of his life, mentioning his hometown and his parents' tumultuous relationship, Harold's intuition began to tingle with recognition. Concurrently, Emily, unable to contain her discomfort, retrieved her belongings from the overhead bin, her movements brusque and agitated. She caught bits of Michael's conversation and heard him mention his birthplace, a small town she knew all too well, the same town she had left behind in her youth. Harold, picking up on these details, saw the threads connecting. He recalled a family tree he had once studied, where a young brother and sister had been separated early in life due to family strife. The sister had been adopted by her aunt, moving away from her roots. "Excuse me," Harold interrupted, turning to Emily. "Did you by any chance grow up in Carsonville?" Startled, Emily paused, her expression unreadable for a moment before she nodded slowly. "Yes, but I haven't been back in years." "Why do you ask?" Harold, with the gentle tact of a seasoned educator, suggested a possibility that seemed far-fetched but was statistically plausible. "I wonder," he mused aloud, "if you two might be more than just seat neighbors on this flight." "Michael, you mentioned Carsonville too, didn't you?" The question hung in the air, heavy with implications. Both Emily and Michael turned to Harold, their expressions a mixture of confusion and skepticism. As the plane touched down and the passengers disembarked, the atmosphere was charged with a palpable sense of unresolved mystery. Michael and Emily, once strangers linked only by a heated exchange, now faced the possibility of a shared past. In the terminal, they agreed to sit at a cafe to discuss the matter further. As they delved into their family histories, they uncovered painful coincidences: their parents' acrimonious divorce, the subsequent splitting of siblings, and a childhood disrupted by hidden truths. This unexpected revelation brought a profound silence between them. Michael looked at Emily, not with resentment, but with an emerging understanding of the forces that had shaped her views and behaviors. Emily, faced with the reality of her bias being directed unknowingly at her own brother, felt a deep shame and confusion. The incident, captured by a few passengers on their phones and quickly shared on social media, sparked a wider conversation about racism, family separation, and the psychological impacts of adoption and familial disruption. Social media platforms buzzed with debates and discussions, with many emphasizing the need for empathy and understanding in confronting racial prejudices. Back in Carsonville, the news prompted a community initiative to address racial biases and support family reunifications whenever possible. Local leaders, spurred by the story's implications, organized workshops and seminars that focused on reconciliation and the dismantling of prejudice. In the weeks following their return to Carsonville, Michael and Emily, with the assistance of Harold and other community members, took steps to reconnect with their shared past. DNA tests confirmed their sibling relationship, bringing a flood of emotions and the daunting task of bridging a lifetime of separation. Emily embarked on a personal journey to confront her prejudices, driven by guilt and a newfound desire to make amends, not only with her brother but within her community. She became an active participant in racial sensitivity programs, sharing her story to help others recognize and overcome their biases. Michael, meanwhile, used his experience to foster discussions within the military and his community about the importance of diversity and inclusion. His story, a stark reminder of the personal battles that many soldiers face beyond the battlefield, resonated with many. Together, they established a foundation aimed at supporting children in foster care and those affected by family separations, ensuring that their story of unexpected reunion and reconciliation would pave the way for others to find healing and hope. As time passed, the incident on the plane became more than just a viral story. It transformed into a catalyst for change, challenging individuals and communities to examine the deep-seated biases that can divide even families. Through their shared efforts, Michael and Emily not only reconstructed their family ties, but also inspired a movement towards greater understanding and unity in Elmwood and beyond. And this brings us to the end of the story. Thank you for watching till the end. I hope you enjoyed the story. If you did, don't hesitate to like the video and share it with your friends too. Subscribe our channel and turn on the notification bell for more fascinating stories. Have a nice day.